Mike Ahern One-on-One is brought to you by Granite Transformations.
We are back with Stan Wood, our special guest, our old friend from many years ago here at Wish TV, and it's so great to see you again, Stan.
Thank you, Mike.
Good to see you're doing so well. Let's talk about the blizzard of '78.
Oh, yes.
That was a one, I suppose that was a signature moment for this station, certainly for you. The day, as I recall, was January of '78. Started out rather moderately, didn't it?
Yeah. Then they began to track a rather quickly forming storm, and based on what I had observed in Korea when we had a Manchurian blizzard that stopped the war for a couple of days, I could tell this was going to be a major event. So talking with Lee Giles, our news director, I told him, you probably want to make sure that you've got enough crew on hand in case this thing winds up the way I think it's going to. And ultimately, of course, it did.
You were among the first, or if the first, to see how big this was going to be.
I think so, yes. May I say this? We
Sure.
did beat the local television competition hands down.
We see some video right now of what it was like out there. That's a main street. I think it might be Meridian Street right there.
I believe you're right.
Incredible, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, we just stayed on the air all night. We never did that back in those days. You signed off and signed back out again. But we found some old Sherlock Holmes movies in our vaults. We ran those, and we kind of just interspersed that with broadcasts of the storm, how severe it was, and some precautions to take.
Yeah, and periodically Mayor Huddut would call to find out the latest, and we were pretty well giving him some advice on what it looked like it was going to do for the city. Ultimately, of course, he closed the city, that is, prohibited people from coming into the city, because I think it would have turned into a major catastrophe as far as people being stuck in their cars if they had tried to get to work that day.
He depended on any information from you to make that proclamation.
Pretty much so, yes.
Sure.
Yeah, and he was
on the air.
very grateful afterward for that, and we were quite proud.
Yeah, we don't know if he saved any lives that evening. That would be presumptuous to say, but I think, I think what we did do that evening by staying on the air for 3 straight days and nights was we more or less held their hand out there. But a lot of people were isolated in rural areas who didn't really realize there was a world aside from that television set. And I don't know, I've heard people come up to me even lately and say, we got through the night because we realized there was something beyond that snowdrift.
Right, and we were there live showing them and telling them what was going on hour by hour, minute by minute, actually. May I bring in a funny little thing?
Sure.
You were finally able, I think, on the 2nd or 3rd night to drive to your home, which wasn't too far away. Of course, I lived way out in Hendricks County, so I was pretty well bedded down here for the duration. And the mark of a real friend is he will give you the shirt off his back. Mike literally did that. He went home, brought in some underwear and socks and some clean shirts for the weather guy.
A funny line too from that. Jim Scott, who was our assignment editor and still is here, he had a great line after 3 days of us existing in this small little cocoon. He said, "I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is we all get a change of clothing. The bad news is, Mike, you changed with Stan, Stan, you changed with..."
Well, we were sort of troglodytes, weren't we, living down here?
Yeah, but that went on for like 3 full days before we finally got the city back.
Yes, I got home on a Saturday, finally.
Yeah, yeah. And people still talk about that, don't they?
They do.
They mention that as kind of a watershed event for local television.
Well, and for the population at large as well, yes.
Yeah. You were not without technology back then, but of course there's been so much since then. What were the gadgets you had to work with, or, compared to what is out there today?
Well, of course, we were pretty well chained to the Weather Service teleprinter for a lot of our information. Then eventually we got a rickety old black and white printer that would give us a still picture of the satellites. Yeah. And then we got our first radar, and then graduated gradually to our Doppler radar. But it was pretty much fly by the seat of your pants early on.
Yeah. You have said often that you always felt a responsibility to the viewer, using computer graphics and radar, what was available to you, that the preparation time for a weather forecast, most people don't realize this, it's true today as it was true back then, the preparation time is what's important. The on-the-air time, that's a couple, 3 minutes, but it's when you work behind the scenes, that's what...
Exactly.
Yeah.
3 minutes on the air means that the prep probably took 3-4 hours to get ready for that little burst of 3 minutes on the air.
And you had those magnetic screen boards, as I recall, didn't you? When you just slap the numbers up on the board?
Yeah, and hope that they would stay. More than once I had the whole forecast just sort of melt down.
I remember that, yeah. Back with more conversation with Sandwood right after this.